know how you got that word in 3 tries today.
It was easy.
Yeah, right.
Tell you my secret tomorrow. We do Wordle. You all do Wordle in the morning?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Infrastructure Surtax Oversight Committee meeting for the Village of Tequesta. It is January 29th. We'll call the meeting at 5:30. Lance, can I have a roll call, please?
Janet Strand.
Here.
Steve Egan.
Here.
Elizabeth Schauer.
Here.
Leslie Dasher. Teresa Maggio.
Here.
Sherry Ambrose. Jean Magadani.
Here.
And our new member, Ms. Marie Shapiro. Here.
Welcome. Next item is the approval of tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Our next item is the approval of the previous meeting minutes of January 20th, 2022. Has everyone had a chance to review them, look over them?
I'll make a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes from January 20th, 2022.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, sir, turn it over to you.
Good evening. I would normally say good evening P&Z Board, but tonight you are the Infrastructure Surtax Oversight Committee. Just as a reminder of what we're here for tonight, in 2016, Palm Beach County voters approved a 1-cent local government infrastructure surtax by referendum. This surtax comes with the requirement that recipient municipalities create a committee to review and determine whether the expenditures spent were consistent with the enabling statute. Now, you all were created under Resolution 11-17, and I can read your responsibilities directly from that ordinance. So this evening, your responsibility is to determine whether the village's expenditure of surtax proceeds for the last fiscal year was consistent with the requirements of Section 212.055, subsection 2, Florida statutes, and the ballot language approved by the voters. And number 2, whether the village's expenditure of surtax proceeds for the fiscal year was consistent with the village council's approval of surtax proceed expenditures. I'll just read a brief excerpt from the Florida statute. This is section 212-0552, the local government infrastructure surtax. These funds are meant to be used to finance, plan, construct infrastructure, acquire any interest in land for public recreation, conservation, protection of natural resources, to prevent or satisfy private property right claims resulting from limitations imposed by a designation of an area of critical state concern, to provide loans, grants, rebates to residential or commercial property owners who make energy efficient improvements to their property, to finance closure of county or municipally owned solid waste landfills that are required to be closed by the Department of Environmental Protection. So essentially, you'll shortly be receiving a presentation from the Village Finance Department, and your responsibility as the Infrastructure Board this evening is to make a finding that the funds were used consistent with the state statute, or make a finding that they were not used. And that is the purpose for us being here this evening.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to turn the floor over now to Nilsa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The agenda item is discussion of the 2022 Village Surtax Expenditure Report. Part of your package is the report that was prepared by our Finance Director, Mr. Jeff Snyder, and our Public Works Director, Mr. Doug Chambers. So that's part of your package, and
We didn't get that.
excuse me? It's here.
It's this one.
Is you didn't get this?
Nope, that never came on my computer.
Never came.
Came on mine, I printed it.
Really? Mine
I
didn't.
printed everything I got. I only got 2 attachments.
Attachments.
So
Right.
please,
No, it
let
was
me-
another
let-
link.
We
It
have
was the
another
other
link.
link in the body of it.
Let me provide to you, please.
It's right there, we'll have it.
Sorry.
Okay, now I need a computer class, Lance.
I think me too.
Thank you,
So
I'm
does
sorry.
everybody has the package, please?
Yes,
Yes.
I don't.
You
Oh,
don't?
so, we'll share, can we share?
We can share.
We can share.
I have an extra copy.
Yes, please.
Don't talk to me, just share.
We'll provide to the Madam Chair.
Thank you.
So, the package that is in front of you, Mr. Snyder and Mr. Doug Chambers are here, and they have some words, please, to a presentation.
Good evening. It's nice to be here. I'm very happy to be here.
If you could state your name, sir. for the
Jeff
record.
Snyder, the finance director for the village.
Thank you.
I've prepared for you a memorandum that lays out history of the 1 cent sales tax. You'll see that we've gotten $2.5 million, almost $2.6 million over the life of this project, and we've spent $2 million. This year, we got a kind of a banner year. We had $568,000. Very exciting. And most of that is sitting there waiting to be spent by Mr. Chambers next year. He has almost $710,000 worth of road projects that he wants to accomplish, so it will be spent rather quickly. You'll see that in 2021, $932,000 was spent. Therefore, the interest earned was fairly small, but we are making better interest these days as the money's there, so it should be a little better. And as far as this year, we have 1 month of collections. It's a 2-month lag for sales tax to get here. 1 month is the people spend the money and the businesses collect it. The next month, they send it to the state, and then the state eventually, after the second month, sends it to the village. So that's $40,000 that we've gotten so far this year, and we have yet to see Christmas, so we'll see that next time. And as far as that goes, unless you have any questions, that's my presentation.
I'll open the floor to the board. Are there any questions? No. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Jeff. Good evening, everybody. I'm Doug Chambers, the Public Works Director. I put together just a very brief presentation on where we spent infrastructure surtax money last year in fiscal year 2022. We had sidewalk improvements on Seabrook Road. Spanned from Tequesta Drive to Venus Avenue. $42,114 was our expenditures there. We also had sidewalk improvements on Seabrook Road, which was south of Tequesta Drive, from Tequesta Drive to the Dover Ditch. $16,998 for a total of $59,112. Just to give you a reference point, we do have a 5-year sidewalk improvement plan, and we follow that on an annual basis. Each year, we go out there and we look at these areas in various areas throughout the village just to make sure that we're on target, nothing has changed in our infrastructure, and that we're going to stick to this plan. So last year, we stuck to the plan. Right here is the area on Tequesta Drive from Seabrook Road to Venus Avenue. It was a total of approximately 800 linear feet of sidewalk that was removed and replaced. A lot of the sidewalk in some of the older areas in the village, our sidewalk is only 4 feet wide, and although that meets current ADA standards, there is a village code that references sidewalks should be a minimum of 5 feet. We are allowed to make some exceptions where we have either utility poles or some intrusion in the sidewalk that we have to deflect the sidewalk or maintain the 4-foot ADA compliance. In this area, though, we did widen the sidewalk except for one area where there was a utility pole. So we widened the sidewalk to 5 feet wide. And what we've been doing is going to a 6-inch depth. A lot of areas throughout the village, you'll find the edge of sidewalk off the grass is cracked. And typically what causes that is from either a delivery truck or a landscape truck or a vehicle pulling up onto the grass and then sitting the tires on the edge of the sidewalk and cracking the sidewalk. So what we've done is increase the strength of that sidewalk by going from 4 inches to 6 inches, which is typically what you'll find in your driveway. When you pull into your driveway, that approach apron is 6 inches. And at 3,000 PSI, that's the amount of pressure per square inch that that sidewalk can handle. So we've increased it from a 4-inch step to 6-inch step, which we believe will eliminate most of those issues that you see around the village like that. There's just a couple of pictures of the crew out there removing the sidewalk and forming up. We go in there, we remove the concrete or asphalt. All of this sidewalk here was asphalt. We'll take out any intrusive oak tree roots or branches. We'll compact, we'll form it up. We check the density of the compaction, and we also make sure that the slope is correct. There's an ADA requirement that so if I'm walking across the sidewalk this way, right, I'm following the sidewalk, the cross-sectional slope of the sidewalk in either direction can't be more than 2%. And that's for ADA compliance if somebody has a disability, whether they have a wheelchair, a walker, that they're not being pushed off the sidewalk. So we make sure the contractor maintains that and follow the project from start to finish. I just have a couple pictures of the project on Tequesta Drive here. There's all your form boards, and they're about ready to compact the sidewalk here. A lot of times we go through here as well. We'll find irrigation pipe, irrigation systems, and we'll make sure we repair all that, and we coordinate all the work with the homeowners to let them know we're coming through here. If we damage the irrigation pipe, we repair the irrigation pipe. Also, if we're coming across their driveway, we'll give them advance notice so they can move their cars out and give them a time frame of 1.5 days to 2 days that they won't have access into the driveway. Well,
I have a question.
Sure.
I have pay for brick, right down,
All the way through.
all the way through.
Right.
I was never told not to brick
Not to put the pavers in.
paver
Right.
where the sidewalk was supposed to be. What do
Yeah.
you do for the homeowners that do it? I would have to pay somebody to take up the bricks so that you don't demolish them?
So last year, the village council approved an ordinance that we're not allowing pavers in the sidewalk any longer. The main reason, it's a liability, not only for you, the homeowner, but for the village. I mean, you see solid concrete in the sidewalk that gets shifted and lifted by oak tree roots. Individual pavers, they shift and move constantly. They're just set on top of sand, with sand on top of, it really doesn't have a footer in it. When we put pavers in, we put a footer on the side, which holds the pavers together.
There, I have footers on the side.
Yeah.
I'm married to
So we
an
don't allow
engineer.
that, the village ordinance does not allow that anymore, does not accept pavers. We will allow an exception in the approach apron, depending on the area where you are and the utilities that might be underground in front of your driveway. So either the utility director, the village manager, or myself can make an exception if you're replacing your driveway and you want to go all the way through to the road and you want to change that, you want to keep the approach apron pavers, we can make an exception in the approach apron, but the sidewalk has to remain concrete.
I have a question also. For your sidewalks that you're replacing, where you're encountering tree roots and that, are y'all using a root barrier procedure with those tree roots to protect the sidewalk?
That's a great question, and I wish we were, but it is almost impossible to install root barriers after you have mature trees in your right-of-way. The roots are just too large. We try, obviously, we're trying to have the least amount of impact to the tree to begin with. I mean, if you have a mature tree and you're going across the sidewalk and you cut all the mature roots, you're compromising that tree.
Well, an arborist would tell you that they would take a quarter every year, but you guys are doing an
Correct.
installation, so you're in
Yeah.
a different position.
So those
Yeah.
root barriers should have been installed when those trees were planted.
Okay.
We have an Adopt a Tree program. I don't know if you've all heard of
Yeah.
that program now as well. So if you come to us and you want to put a tree in the right-of-way in front of your home or your business, you come to the village, you fill out an application, and we'll work with the homeowner to plant a tree in the right-of-way. It's your responsibility to maintain the tree, but when we install it now with a root barrier.
Okay.
We make sure it's away from any infrastructure. There are a lot of areas that I would have not recommended installing trees.
Well, you got Tequesta Oaks.
You cannot put a tree,
Yeah.
plant a tree in the ground that is going to grow to 20, 30, 40 feet
And give it
with
this
a
much
taproot
space.
system,
Right.
grows 2 feet that way, and it's already compromising your sidewalk or
Yeah.
your water utilities. Tequesta Oaks, like you mentioned, Liz, has had major problems with all their water meters, and they still do, all the oak trees growing through their water meters and damaging their water meters. So, there are guidelines of where you plant a tree and how far away you're supposed to be, depending on the full diameter of that tree when it's mature. Trees were planted years ago without factoring that in.
Okay.
So
But you're
when
not
we're putting
factoring
in
it in at
trees
this
now-
point, correct, right?
When we're trimming the roots and replacing the sidewalk, there's not much we can do.
Okay,
We try to have the least amount of impact to the
Okay.
tree and the roots as possible.
fair enough.
We replaced, with Surtax money on Country Club Drive, if you recall, we replaced the sidewalk all on Country Club Drive, the full length of Country Club Drive in 2 phases. And we are 2 years later, we're already seeing sidewalk shifting and moving. So we'll go back down there. The good thing is now it's concrete, and so it will lift at the joint. So we put in all our construction joints. So it's not like the asphalt where we would just lift up and you'd have
Yeah.
tripping hazards everywhere. Now it'll push up the sidewalk and it'll push it up the joint. And once we catch it early, we can go out there. We purchased a sidewalk grinder last year. We can go out there and we can grind down that lip.
Okay.
And now we have 6 inches of sidewalk. We can grind that lip down to almost 4 inches. So, but when we catch it early, we're talking about, for instance, yesterday, the guys were out on Country Club Drive in the unincorporated area there, which is still village right-of-way. And we had a new sidewalk, 1.5 years old, that raised up about a 1/2 inch. So the guys went out there, took them maybe a half hour, grinded it down smooth. So that's another program that we implemented last year as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But it's a really good question, yeah. And just a couple more pictures. Here are the levels we use out there that give us a percentage of the slope to make sure we're maintaining that slope. If you also see there, we came across a resident's driveway apron. So what we had to do in some cases to make sure we're maintaining that 2% slope, you have to go cut back one or, either the direction to the street or back into the property so you can raise that sidewalk so it's not more than 2% slope. So here we had to go into the apron and remove a section of the apron at the village cost and repair that apron. It's still the village right-of-way. What's interesting here on Tequesta Drive, south of the sidewalk, looking at that picture to the right, the village does not have right-of-way there. So we had to go the other way into the apron. In a lot of cases, that helped the homeowners transition off of the road into their property as well. But we did not replace all of the apron. We just did a little transition piece for 2 reasons. One, we just wanted to fix a sidewalk. This was a sidewalk project. And this year, the utilities department is coming through here replacing a water main. And they're going to be digging and boring through there and through the driveway apron. So they will be replacing those as needed. So we didn't want to double dip on our money. So we have here. So here's here we have a mature royal palm tree that was impacting the sidewalk. Where you see that curvature around the tree, that meets ADA compliance. That it's 4 feet. So we have the 4-foot span, and then we just went right back out to the 5 feet that we like to see throughout the village. That's a finished product, although the concrete is still curing. That's just showing the slope. So throughout the project, anytime they take out, we don't allow them to go too far ahead, so we can, keep a close eye on the project, make sure they're taking out all the roots, make sure we're taking the pictures, make sure they're not damaging any of the residents' properties, ensure that their irrigation systems are functioning before we pour the concrete in case we have to put some new piping or sleeves under the sidewalk. So we take a lot of pictures, and then each section is inspected, and, we save these pictures, and then as the project goes along, when they get to the finish line, we go back and close out the project and the permit. That's from fresh concrete as well, and we did a little transition into the driveway apron, so we didn't have our 2% slope there on the sidewalk in front of the driveway, so we had to fix that. There's a nice length of sidewalk that's in front of Gallery Square South. And that's it. And so we also, I didn't have any pictures on Seabrook Road to the south. Seabrook Road was not, a lot of the sidewalk on Seabrook Road was in good condition, so we just replaced the damaged sidewalk, and then what we also did was at every cross street, we put the yellow ADA mats. And those are for visually impaired people, so that when they're walking, either the dog or with the cane, or with their feet, they will feel that ADA mat and know they've come to an intersection. As we're replacing sidewalk at all the intersections, we're installing those ADA mats as well. And that's it for last year. I mean, we'll move ahead this year. Just so you know, this year we're moving ahead. We're gonna head down North Seabrook. We want to get all the sidewalk repaired on both sides of the road, the east and west side of the road, all the way to the village limits, which is Russell Street. And then we're going to continue down from Venus Avenue on Tequesta Drive. A lot of the sidewalk is good in there. A lot of the pavers have been repaired on the north side, but there are some imperfections and some cracked sidewalk. Some of it was just fixed by the railroad tracks, by the Brightline contractors. And then there's some additional sidewalk that needs to be replaced all the way to US 1 on both sides of the road. And there's some additional ADA mats that have to go in at the cross streets as well. And we also have some new sidewalk going in. And I'm just giving you a look ahead. This has nothing to do with last year's expenditures, but we're also going to be installing, if you're familiar with the Country Club on El Portal, the sidewalk comes in down Tequesta Drive, sort of along that pedestrian walkway past the church, and it goes right into Yacht Club, and then the sidewalk just ends.
Yeah.
We're working on the plans to add sidewalk all the way around the loop there to Golfview, clear out all the vegetation in the right-of-way, put in some sidewalk, swales, and then the El Portal all around the loop to the south. We will be milling and paving in there. So it'll be Pine Tree, Yacht Club, and the El Portal loop to the south.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I was gonna say,
And
that's a long
I'm
way.
sure some of the funds for those projects, as Jeff mentioned, for this fiscal year will be coming out of the infrastructure money. Yeah, we have over $700,000 in funds for road repairs.
Did you,
Go ahead.
did you have to go back and repair anything after the hurricanes?
We had, so after the hurricanes, we did have it's not necessarily a sinkhole, but we had a depression on Pine Hill Trail West in the middle of that hurricane. This was Hurricane Nicole. I was actually here through the hurricane. I was out there with the front end loader filling that in. There was a void under the asphalt Waxahachie sanitary sewer pipe. And,
How I
yeah.
love those sewer
And that
pipes.
sort of gave way with all the water, so I filled that in with gravel. We had that one, and we had a power line down on Country Club Drive. I had to get out there and close the road off there. FP&L actually responded during the storm. They were out there within 2-3 hours and safed off the area and removed that line. And there was one more utility line that went down at Tequesta Park, and FP&L took that down as well. And they've all been repaired relatively quickly. But as far as roads and infrastructure, just that one depression in the road that sort of broke open on Pine Hill Trail West. But other than that, the system fared really, really well. We had, I don't know if you all remember, we had a storm event maybe about 6 months ago, 7 months ago, and the entire village was flooded.
Yep.
And we had more rain because of the amount of water in such a short period of time. But what was nice, when you did see the system handle that volume of water, within an hour after the rain stopped, all that water was gone. So the system is working really well. And then I know when Matt was here, when the utility director a couple of years back, he did a lot of work in the Pines, Tequesta Pines and Dover, and they repaired and lined a lot of the infrastructure pipe, the stormwater pipe in those areas, and that eliminated a lot of flooding in those areas. So this, and then also he lined a lot of pipe in the country club community that drains into the retention ponds in the golf club. So that's really helped move water. And I know we've been working with Palm Beach County out here in Old Dixie where it floods.
That's terrible.
South of
Yeah.
Tequesta Drive, where you get 4 or 5 vehicles stuck in there.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
I actually have a meeting coming up with Palm Beach County. We're talking about a few things on Old Dixie. So there, not to go too deep into it, but within the structure, there's a weir. And what the weir does, it's a wall, right? It could be wood, it can be brick. It's a wall that holds back water, because you have to calculate how fast you can move water in a direction, right?
Yes.
So anytime you're moving water, you have a permit with South Florida Management Water District
For so
that
much
monitors your water flow and where you put your water. There's a weir out there on Old Dixie that holds back some water. And so my conversation with the county is, let's see if we can change that permit and lower that weir a little bit, so we can, we have to come up with the right formula to see where the water's going, but lower that weir to get that water out of there faster. But they've had some other issues with some block pipe and things like that as well. They found a lot of concrete in there from the CEMEX plant. So the county's been addressing that
That really
with
doesn't
CEMEX.
surprise
Yeah.
me. Yeah, because
Yeah.
the way that whole area just floods all of the time.
Yeah. So I know I'm off target a little bit from tonight's meeting, but I think,
No, it's good.
these things are important,
Yeah.
and
Great.
it all ties together with any of the work that's coming up where we'll be using infrastructure money as well, from the sales tax.
Great.
Doug, I do have to say, I've known you for quite a while, but I really appreciate all of your hard work and that you're always available. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to open the floor to the board. Are there any questions? No, at this point? Thank you so much.
Are we gonna see anybody at the Resident Academy? Y'all know about the Residence Academy coming up?
No, tell us.
Go to the village website and sign up for the Residence Academy, and come on out and learn about all the different departments and everything that everybody does. Last year was our first year, but go
And
to
it
the
was
village
packed.
website and sign up. There's only 20 seats, it's free, and come out, you'll meet all the department heads and council members and take a tour of all our facilities.
Neat.
So that's my pitch.
Residence Academy.
Yep, let's go right to the village website, you'll see it on there.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Doug.
Chairwoman, I would recommend opening the floor to the
Public
public
comment.
if there are any public
Okay,
comments.
we'll open to public comment. Do we have anybody on the internet tonight? Nope? Okay. We'll close to public comment.
I'm sorry. It's not funny.
I think it's funny. Go ahead, laugh. We'll have a giggle moment.
Why not?
All right, I'd like to ask the board for a motion of how you want to proceed.
I will make a motion to approve the, what do we approve? The Infrastructure Surtax Annual Report for the fiscal year 2021 to 2022.
Chairwoman, I would recommend phrasing it as a motion to approve the expenditure of the surtax proceeds
Expenditure,
for
okay.
the previous fiscal year, finding that they are consistent with the requirements of section 212-0552.
You expect me to remember that?
Wait a minute.
And the ballot language approved by the voters, and finding that the expenditure surtax proceeds were consistent with the village council's approval of the surtax proceeds.
It
My
takes
brain
an
just
attorney,
ended.
we
And-
agree.
And,
I
and,
make a
a,
motion.
and an authorization to staff to prepare an annual report stating as such.
Okay.
Perfect. Whatever you
It's
say.
perfect. I make a motion to whatever he just said.
I second.
Excellent.
I'm sorry, you have to have a sense of humor.
Yes, you do.
Go ahead, Lance.
Do we have a second?
I
Yes,
seconded.
yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, motion carries.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, this is moving forward to the council agenda for February, so council will have a final approval of this.
Okay. Do you need a motion to adjourn?
I have a comment.
We have board comments first, so we'll open the floor to board comments, and then we'll open the floor to staff comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
So, just that this is moving forward to the council in February, and also I wanted to recognize Lance Lilly. Back in September, he was promoted to senior planner. So, because I guess we were extremely busy, I didn't recognize him, and he has been serving the village for the last 6 years, and he has been instrumental in all the tasks that are with regard to the planning and zoning board, and many others with regard to the village council too. You always receive emails from him, so I just wanted to recognize him, that he was promoted back in September as a senior planner.
Lance, congratulations.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Okay, now we can do the
I'll
adjournment.
make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, everybody.
You are welcome.